Hello and welcome to another video from the Fan Pub.
It's great to be back, and what a week it's been, isn't it? All news in the air and everything else. We're doing another player profile video.
We are.
Well, you're choosing them.
There's a couple of interesting ones.
Oh,
We'll start with probably the higher of the two, and that's Ezekiel Elliott and his possible holdouts.
I was really hoping we'd never talk about these kind of players in player profile video. They should be easy to talk about, and obviously you're right, it's become a bit more tricky. I suppose if we're going to talk about him, then ultimately we're going to probably talk about the other chap. We'll talk about that in another video, old Melvin. Where do we start?
Is this another Lev Bell situation, or is this different?
I think this is a situation that's been brought about because of the Lev Bell situation from a year ago. My fears have been very realised right now, which is Lev Bell may have raised a point in the NFL, modern NFL, which is fair, but he may have handled it in the wrong way. But his intentions were right. That the running back position is undervalued. I think we all know. We've known this for a while. It's been brought more home more recently because players have begun to realise how badly, particularly running backs, are affected by the current rules that exist in the NFL. And some of these running backs are facing a decision that has to be made now before we go to the rules that are going to be reset in 2020. There's going to be some changes to contract law, and these running backs don't know how that's going to affect them, whether it's going to be good or worse. So they want to get theirs now. It's all business, and I understand that. And the other problem is, as we talked a little bit about this before, which was if you put fantasy and real life side by side for a moment and think about the running backs in the NFL and the real situation, they come in, they have a 4-year rookie deal. The clubs can extend that by offering an extension for a year, which often the player can't turn down. Then they can franchise tag them. That's 6 years. Most running backs don't make 6 years.
Yeah, that's also almost a shelf life of a running back, isn't it?
That's horrendous. So to get paid for really performing as one of the greats, of that era, your time period, all you can do is be the best of your time period. We're not talking about mediocre running backs. We're talking about some of the best players right now. I don't blame them for taking a hardline approach. I personally believe, I think these situations, Ezekiel Elliott's will be resolved before we get to week 1 of the NFL. But you know what?
Yeah, I don't.
You know what? I was going to say, I can understand the concerns. And here's the problem. We both know in fantasy, here's the issue. I can say that easily. Yeah, it should be resolved. But am I going to draft him now if I'm picking at 2 or 3?
Do you want that risk?
Can I take that risk in fantasy? No, I can't, because the problem is I know in drafts, particularly large leagues, 14, 16-man leagues.
Any league, if it's your first pick.
First pick can kill you. We've said it many times on this podcast, the one part you can control is that draft in terms of when you pick and who you pick. That's all you can control. That's it. Making mistakes that you can see coming, that's your fault. Things that happen that you had no control of, that's fine. You can live with that. But there's a problem here. So that means he has to move down the draft board until it's resolved. And that means if you're drafting early, and we've got a live draft coming up in, amazingly, just a couple of weeks' time, this is going to create somebody a huge
and it's high stakes as well. So
it's not,
you can't make mistakes.
Big mistakes there are going to massively matter. And the reason they matter so much in that league, and it's worth highlighting here, is that's your 200-point plus player. Standard scoring. You absolutely want to nail it. You can't afford a bust there, because who else is going to pick up a 200-point slack? That's very hard to find in a 15-round live draft. Very difficult in those leagues.
I think the major problem with this is, as fantasy players, running backs are, we covet them. The good ones.
We love them.
They win you fantasy.
We love them because we know what the difference. If you can find 3 in a large league, you're almost guaranteed playoff football, and you're almost guaranteed a great playoff.
In reality, NFL teams don't value them as highly. They're not highly paid players, are they?
It's a shame, because they do a bulk of the work. The problem is that they this needs readdressing, because they are critical to any team. So they are actually, their shelf life should matter to them, and therefore, because they take a lot of hits, do a lot of blocking, good ones do, and a lot of the dirty stuff to keep the clock moving.
And they fire at the crowd and things like that.
They're worth their weight in gold. And there's nothing more exciting than seeing a player break off a big run. That's one of the more exciting things that can happen. We all know how brilliant wide receivers are and what they can do and dominate, but they don't put up half. They don't have to be in the trenches fighting alongside the offensive lineman, which a running back can do. It's a big deal, and it's going to be a big issue moving forward for all rookie running backs. And actually, it's a sticking point the NFL has to get right, because the last thing you want is college players deciding to not play because...
Well, that's what Bell did last year. How far will they take it?
I think they could take it far if they feel that their teams are going to let them down. And Melvin Gordon has played quite a blinder, actually. He's made it very clear pay me or trade me, and I think that's quite a good stance to go because he knows full well he has the cards in his favour. They've got a tiny window left with Philip Rivers under the helm and a reasonably good team around them, where you feel there is a chance for. You could see San Diego on any given year doing well, going quite deep into the playoff.
Yeah, they're one of the better teams now, aren't they?
You know, they're exciting to watch. There's a lot to like about them. So he has the cards. They know they need him. You don't find many great. I don't want to hear about the 2020 class. They're all great running.
But there are. That's another issue, isn't it?
We heard that many times.
If he doesn't get paid now,
he won't do next year. That's why they'll hold. Because the problem he's got is actually worth less in a year. Because if he holds out a year, this is why I don't think they will. You hold out a year, and these teams might trade up the board and take a running back, and then you have lost your value. And then you will find a home, but it won't be anywhere near the value you thought you were going to get. You might have cost yourself.
But it'll be value compared to their rookie deal.
It could well be value compared to, yeah. It's really hard for them, but I do understand the tough time they're taking. But for us fantasy people left in the trenches thinking, oh dear, you have to be a bit sensible here. If you have no news on these and it's right going up to your draft day, how can you take them? I mean, being honest, how can you take them?
You can't ignore him forever, though, can you?
No,
they're both very, very valuable.
They're great
assets,
value if they fall outside the top. If they fall outside the top 8 picks, they're brilliant value. So if they go backwards,
they'd have to fall to 8.
8, 9, 10, you take them.
You wouldn't take Zeke till 8 now.
I think I'd wait till 8. If I had no news and I'm drafting tomorrow, I'm going to wait because there are other running backs I would take. I would go for Deshaun. Sorry, I'd go for David Johnson over this situation now. I'd even move Lev Bell up, which I wasn't prepared to do the other day because
no, you get off Lev Bell.
I had no choice.
You don't like him.
I don't, but now I've got no choice because it's a 3 down back.
You draft him ahead of Zeke now.
Well, I think this is the issue that a lot of drafters will have, isn't it? Is that they'll cover the 3 down back more, and that's what will happen. So almost these players by default move up the board, and you then start looking at the backups to these guys, and it all becomes a free for all, hoping that you've struck gold, but of course their values might climb. So
but you can't. I mean, you can't leave Zeke till 8, surely.
I don't.
He's just too valuable.
I think the problem is if people don't have news, what are they going to do? I mean, they saw what happened with Lev Bell last year. You know what it's like, personal experience on this.
I do.
You know, if you've got a Lev Bell as a first round pick last year, as much as a great player, and as much as I thought there was something very serious at play, but I thought James Conner and Jalen Samuels would actually work their way into the starting lineup as the season went along for a few reasons. That didn't happen. It was actually a complete holdout. Would you really take another risk on a player like this in another one? Would you be prepared to do that? And I know you're a great swing for the fences kind of guy, and that's great. But this is big stakes, and the last thing you want to do. You know how that affects you. You know, losing that first pick. That's a big loss, isn't it? I mean, you did well without him, but it's tough to get over.
I mean, behind Ezekiel Elliott, they've only got 2 rookies,
I don't trust any of them yet.
But they've got another guy as well. But they're vastly removed from where Zeke is, aren't they?
Bigs up,
skill and experience wise.
It's been an interesting off season because we're already now. You're getting just when everything looks so settled, and you're thinking you could nail down that first sort of 6, 7, 8 picks. You could kind of see comfortably
possibly 2 of the top 6 picks.
Depending how your preferences is, who falls where. It's all fairly straightforward. Now that's all gone. You can't tell what's going to happen or who's going to do what. That's all gone.
It's always good, isn't it, when you're playing in a high stakes thing?
It's always interesting. So, yeah, it's going to cause you quandary. I've got to be honest. I mean,
so where would you pick the 2 players? And I think that at the end of the day,
they have to still be first-round worthy players. But the problem is, for me, I know what it's like. You know, I said this the other day in a couple of the videos, actually. I don't want a player, as much as I love Ezekiel Elliott for this year and as much as I love Melvin Gordon for this year, you've got a big problem if you're drafting and you've got no knowledge of what's about to happen. That's just suicide for me. I can't do it. I mean, you're never going to replace a 16-man league. Where are you going to find them?
So what about, so you put Zeke at 8?
It's going to have to be Zeke at 8 and Melvin Gordon's going to have to drop to about 10 or 11. Sorry.
So what happens if you're picking 10 or 11, they're still there?
Probably I would take a shot at one of them there because it's a golden nugget because I wouldn't get that chance.
He's potentially a top 2
Yeah, I wouldn't get that chance normally, so I'd take the shot, take the swing for the fences and then play safe the next 4 or 5 picks.
I'm still seeing a lot of experts putting Zeke at 2 when picking Zeke at 2 with all the...
I think it's really difficult to do. I mean, I personally think that they will both be sorted before we get anywhere near the season. This is a personal thing, but I think it's because both of them have different reasons for the teams, particularly in the case of Melvin Gordon. I think you highlight the problem that Dallas might have with Zeke is twofold. One, cap space, but more importantly, attitude and aptitude. There are some issues still hanging over him. And maybe they find him a little corrosive, and maybe they're thinking ahead and thinking, well, great player, but we would have burnt him into the ground a bit, and we would maybe have moved forward in a year or two. Who knows?
Well, that's probably why he isn't going to get paid, though, isn't it?
Ooh. Looks like he wanted to come in the door. That might have been Ezekiel Elliott coming in there.
Goes to
if he was,
Elliott.
I'm sorry, Zeke. Get your money now. It's really difficult. This is one of the hardest decisions a fantasy enthusiast will play, but you have to be very, very careful, because if you get this wrong, look, in a small league, you could take these players anywhere you like, as you've got a couple more rounds, 10 or 12 man
It's
league.
still your first pick.
But you could still get
anyone picking Bell last year would.
Well, I think in the small leagues you kind of get around it because you've got 2 or 3 extra rounds to find other players to assist you. Players, running backs that would normally go in our second round won't go to the 3rd or the 4th round. So you've got that luxury of a little bit more time. So you can take an extra
Is there an
swing.
argument to say you can pick up the backups quite cheaply if you want to cover these people?
Well, I think you could until
Who do you think
now.
is a backup? So you got Darius Jackson, who isn't a rookie, but he sort of could be the backup at the moment. They've got Tony Pollard, who's a bit of a Swiss Army knife, more of a catcher.
I personally like Tony Pollard, if I'm honest. I like Tony Pollard.
He's not really an out-and-out runner,
none of this is proven. And I have to be honest, I don't think we're going to know the answer to that until the camp battles come round and the pre-season games start.
And you've got Mike Webber's probably.
And that's a brilliant issue. And what I like as well, I think what's one of the funniest things as well, is you'll hear this a lot over the next few weeks, and these two players highlight brilliantly this issue. They'll go, oh, well, if only you were picking later in the year when you were drafting, you could get around it. No, you can't necessarily, because this may not be found out till the start of the season. So nothing may change. And who knows, God forbid, but a big name player goes down injured as we go anywhere near the pre-season with an ACL tear before we even get to, after everybody's drafted, or even just as they're about to finish their drafts in early September. So you never know with these things what is going to happen in the NFL, and that's what makes it so exciting.
And to add all insult to injury, the security guard has obviously pressed charges on Zeke miles after the event, after not pressing charges. Obviously, a lawyer's got to him and said, no, we can...
Look, I looked at the event. I'll just block that door because it looks like Zeke wants to come in, and we do apologise about that. But he's very keen. He probably wants to come on camera, make his
sort you out for the...
No, I mean, if you've seen the video evidence, it's a nonsense. It's a man flopping on the floor like a football tackle, frankly. I think he realised who it was and decided to play for the camera himself. So I'm not buying it. It wasn't his fault, Ezekiel Elliott, in this case. I'm not interested. I don't know. Got no case to answer.
I mean, a lot of the time they do get away with it, but this was nothing, wasn't it?
This is nothing at all.
Stupid.
No, this is nothing at all. This is flopping
just
on
a
the
bloke
ground.
seeing
This is all flop back for the, get on that metal fencing as quickly as I can, make it look really dramatic. You nonsense. Absolute ridiculous.
If you just see pound signs in his...
I'd be rather shaking the bloke's hand and saying, it's Ezekiel Elliott, isn't it? No, not these people. They want the money. It's terrible.
I'm sure Zeke will be pretty well represented in...
I think it'll hopefully blow... I believe it will blow over. But the key here is this is a very dangerous situation for fantasy, particularly large leagues. Small ones, you've got a little extra chance to swing for the fence on this. But in those bigger leagues...
So where would you pick him in a 12-man league?
Oh, you're okay in the 12-man. You can take him wherever you like. You've got 2 more rounds. It's that 14 or 16-man rounds, it becomes hugely difficult. You really have to elevate backwards, because we know, get that first pick wrong, bust. You got to find
it still hurts you in every league.
It hurts everywhere, but this is going to be more difficult because you've got extra picks. I mean, in essence, you've got more quality higher up the board, whereas in our leagues, not only is the quality lower as you go down the board because people are more knowledgeable, without being disrespectful, but that's true. It's not like this is casual, that people are really into it. And the other thing, of course, the premium on running backs is so high that, where you might pick a running back, say, in the 5th or 6th round, he's gone by the 3rd. You're not getting away with it.
The thing is, if you've got 16-man league, everyone needs 2. So that's 32 teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's
30
pretty much...
pass catches have got to play a role in it.
And then not everybody has a bell cow, so, straight away it's always... what is their role? They're 1-2 down back. That might do. That might be enough.
Yeah.
And it becomes, you look at players who you wouldn't necessarily look at every year. They become valuable. Is that favourite Alfred Blue? And it's all these players that suddenly become valuable again.
Is it Tony Pollard?
And we'll be having a debate over the backups.
Is it Mike Webber?
The trouble will be with both of these guys. It is going to be a lot of the camp battles won't be determined until we really hit the pre-season games.
And the other thing is, they might get someone with experience in, there's always a CJ Anderson.
There's always
I know he's got a team, but that type of player that's looking for a team.
You know, you never know. There's players on teams.
Orleans Darkwa.
There's players on teams now who didn't quite hit it the first time. I mean, a good one might be Amir Abdullah as an example, who technically doesn't have much of a contract.
He's on a team though. He's with the Vikings.
But people could maybe buy him out or say, "Would you come and play for us?"
But again, he's not a runner between the tackles.
I know,
anyway.
but teams get desperate when the situation.
The Garrett Blunt.
Oh,
has he retired? That bloke?
I don't know. Frank Gore might find a job. I mean,
he's got a job.
He might find a better one. He could.
Frank's locked up.
Frank's locked up for the next 40 years. He's never going down. It's amazing actually because he's closing in on quite an interesting record. This Frank Gore, if he plays another year and just gets a few more 100 yards, he's going to close in on one of the all-time leading rushers, which is amazing. Frank Gore.
Yeah, 1 yard at a time.
1 yard at a time, but 1 year at a time. Good man.
Right. Okay. Ezekiel Elliott. You know, before you hear any news, are you prepared to pull the trigger high up, and if so, how high? Sean's not going till late.
I'm not going till later. If you're in a large league, that's what I recommend. And if you're in a smaller league, sure, you can swing for the fences, but I'm not doing that.
I think I'd move him down to at least 4.
Okay, that's fair enough.
There's 4 top running backs.
Yeah,
I don't know where Melvin Gordon would have to move him down.
Would you hate yourself if you busted? I mean, come on. It's a big stake league.
Well, I wouldn't be happy about it,
exactly.
obviously. Yeah. I don't like any of my players busted, especially me top pick.
Well, that's the point. We know how valuable it is. I mean, I say this all the time. We've said it even off camera a few times. You know, if it's one
if
thing.
I'm going to get Zeke
when people say to me, "Oh, you have to swing for the fences." What on every pick?
If I could get Zeke at 8,
yeah, you take that.
Yeah,
that's fine. You take that, but the risk and reward are worth it. Though.
Yeah.
Down at 4, it's just the same difference.
If I can get, possibly the second best running back in the league
for peanuts,
maybe even the best one.
Yeah,
for pick 8.
Well, it certainly makes drafting more interesting because no one's going to know what to value these guys. Really, it's going to get very interesting.
Okay. Well, Sean's a bit scaredy of these.
I'm quite happy to back off them. Yeah. And let others take those risks for them.
I think it's about making the move at the right time. So
if they drop far enough,
don't go picking him at 2 or 3.
No need.
4 would be the highest for me.
Yeah, no need, and see where they go.
But we'd love to hear your comments. If you've enjoyed the video and you're still watching, give us a like, hit the thumbs up,
subscribe and share. And the more you do, the better it is. And we've got some great stuff coming up, and we're going to be talking about that very soon. About some of the things we're going to be able to do.
And do you think these guys will actually get a contract? That's another question because I don't think Dallas are going to pay Zeke. It's been rumoured for a while they're not going to pay Zeke.
Well, then they're about to find out.
They've got to pay, Dak.
We're about to.
They've paid Lawrence. They've paid a lot.
We're going to find out because it looks like both these guys are going to legitimately hold out, and the Melvin Gordon's been very clear on this.
You've got to really hold your
back
nerve.
Me or trade me, and I think there'll be some buyers out there for Melvin if he should be traded. I doubt he will be, but we'll see.
Okay, thanks very much for watching. Look forward to hearing your comments.